I got a call from a record producer saying, I have you a record deal and it's out of Germany, but we're going to fly you to England, and I've got this band lined up and they're going to play on your album, and do you want to do it? And at the time I was running a business. We had employees and everything else, but I told my brother, hey, you know what? See you later. I'm
off to rock and roll land.
I'm going for a month.
A big God bless you from me, Rory. Alec, it's fabulous to be with you. Again, it's Tuesday, every Tuesday, Thursday. I'm uploading a Spirit, Soul, Body podcast. And on the podcast today, morning, noon, or night, depending on when you're choosing to watch, welcome. And more importantly, thanks for having me be able to join you. I think we're going to have a great program tonight, today, whenever. You got it. I've got a potent songwriter, emotional, soulful vocals, sort of a true musical treasure. His writing ability. Take Bob Dylan and mix him with David Bowie, and then put a love for Jesus in the middle of all of that. I'm talking about David Vater. He's going to be joining me in a few moments right here on the podcast, live from Yucatan, Mexico. So we're going to be connecting the heart of Europe here in Austria all the way to that side of the world, that side of the pond. And David and I are going to talk for the next however long. We're just going to hang out and discuss music and talk about spirit, soul, and body. Before we do that, I hope you're well. I hope you're having a good week. I find Tuesdays, which follow the Mondays, and I always call Monday, by the way, Happy Monday. I never say, oh, it's a blue Monday. Yours truly always says it's a happy Monday. But what I find when we hit Tuesday, okay, the week's begun, we're on our way. Are you having a serious Tuesday, or are you having a breakthrough Tuesday? And sometimes I have serious Tuesdays. Sometimes I have breakthrough Tuesday. And yes, sometimes I have a happy Tuesday as well. So it just depends. Well, you know how life is, right? But I'd love to hear from you. Let me know where you're watching. And if you've got any ideas for the podcast, many of you have already sent me great ideas. So we're working on all of them. They're all in sort of the pre-production process as we reach out to various guests that you are suggesting. And thank you for that. I appreciate it. And if you want to text me, you can text me here on this number. It's a WhatsApp number, so you can 676-910-9229. And I'm very happy to hear from you. Give me your ideas or thoughts, or just, hey, hi, Rory. Loving what you're doing. And look forward to these interesting guests you're talking about. And we're going to be focusing on spirit, soul, and body. And today we're going to be focusing on music. The music is sort of the food of the soul, is probably how one would say it. And David's going to be sharing with us in a few moments. So I'll be talking with singer-songwriter David Vaters, but right now, why don't we kick off with one of his songs from his album. He's 3 albums, Volume 1, Volume 2, Volume 3, and he's now working on his 4th album. And I'm also going to be asking him, David, why were you such a late starter in your musical career? But before I do that, let's kick off with the first song called Red Sea.
Now the devil's been busy and he's got you confused. He's promised you a lot, but I'm not really fooled. The world is spinning, but it's upside down. You can push me hard, but I'll come back around. Like when the Red Sea parted and they all walked through. Like Like when the Red Sea parted and they all walked through. Like when the walls fell down and the trumpets blew. We got on our side, you just can't lose. I'm not afraid of no demons, not afraid of you. And they all walked through. Like when the walls fell down and the trumpets blew. We caught on our side with just...
Without further ado, David, lovely to have you on the program. Thanks for joining me, brother. I see you adjusting your camera still.
Thank you for having me. And I'd just like to say that I've been enjoying your podcast every week, twice a week. And, it's great because you can kind of catch up. If you don't catch it live, you can always catch it that night or whatever. And so I really appreciate it. I love the theme of the podcast. And
well, let's talk spirit, soul, body. I mean,
music is all about those things, right?
Isn't it?
The frequency of music, what God created, is something that warms the soul. It soothes the soul. It's healing. We could talk all day about frequencies as well, but it really goes down to the spirit, and all of that combined really, I believe, gives you a healthy body, or at least contributes to it for sure. So I think we're in tune with your theme of your show.
Yeah, wonderful. No, there's no doubt about it. Now, when you and I first met, it was in completely different circumstances. I don't remember the year. It must have been around 2012, 2013, maybe even before, actually.
No, yeah, it was before that. It was
maybe even before. A long time ago. And
actually, I'll scare you. I think it was 2009 or 8.
No. As long ago as that. It was at Lake. It was at the Lakeland Revival. Todd Bentley was just blowing up the world. Or let me rephrase that. Holy Ghost was blowing up the world, and we were all along for an extraordinary ride. So a profound impact in a lot of not all of the Christian community, but a significant part of the Christian community was really impacted by what we would call a revival. And it was really profound miracles and everything else. And I remember being introduced to you and Susie. You were on your bus, parked in this massive luxury bus. And you guys were parked in the parking lot. And we talked about digital currency before there was even Bitcoin or anything. I mean, you were doing something that I didn't even understand at the time. What was digital currency? You know what I'm saying? Of course, I knew about credit cards and all that sort of thing, but digital currency. And so for us to be focusing on music tonight, and you look such a rock and roller anyway. I know country rock and roll, but so that's where I met you, and here I discover how much you're doing and so well you're doing in the music side.
Well, I guess the story goes back when I was 15 years old. I started writing songs. And at 16, I was offered a recording contract, which my parents were a little adamant in not going forward with because I was 16. I was still in high school. And back then, they didn't have the apparatus, I guess, for tutors and
homeschooling.
Right. So that was that. But I kept, writing throughout my whole professional career. I was in the clothing business. I was a clothing manufacturer and running shoe manufacturer with my brother in Canada. Then that parlayed into a number of other entrepreneurial things that we did, and one of them was a tech company. And so that's another story for another time. But
a long one. But I
but
mean, in
you know, it's
2017, you released your first album, Volume One. So I mean, moving away from tech companies and manufacturing, and I'm sure you still dabble in business. But here, how and why music? After all this time, what was the catalyst that launched you into launching these albums and writing songs?
yeah. Well, being that I'd always done it, I had some periods of time. Obviously, in business, I was running a couple of public publicly traded companies, so I just had that in me, and God gave me some ability to do that. Had opportunities along the way with other record companies, but business was paying the bills, and so that's the direction I went. Um, but it was actually 2015, 14. I was on the balcony of our home in Florida, and my wife says, "Write a song," right out of the blue. She goes, "Just write a song." I said, "I haven't done this in years. What are you talking about?" She goes, "I want you to write a song." So I went and got the guitar. We're out in the balcony. The moon, the sun, the stars are out, and so on. And I wrote this song called "Brighter Than the Stars." And that was it. And then she suggested a few months later, "Well, why don't you record this?" So we went to Nashville, and it ended up where I got downloaded a whole, actually 2 albums
Amazing.
in just a period of a month or two.
Hmm.
And so that one song, recording one song, turned into one album, and then I I just continued and did the second album, put that in the can, and we released the first one. So that's kind of how it's morphed into that. But I was 57 at the time. But I have a backstory here. We got to talk about this.
Come on.
Um, okay, David Marquis
Oh,
and
I know David.
Norman Norman Barrett. Okay, you know both of those
Yeah.
guys.
I mean, David Marquis
Unfortunately,
is a famous bass player. He played with Eric Clapton, didn't he?
yeah, Eric Clapton and his friend Henry Spinetti was with Clapton and with Tina Turner. And did you knew Norman, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so all in between this, back in almost 1992, I got a call from a record producer saying, "I have you a record deal, and it's out of Germany, but we're going to fly you to to England, and I've got this band lined up, and they're going to play on your album. And do you want to do it?" And at the time, I was running a business. We had employees and everything else, but I told my brother, "Hey, you know what? See you later. I'm
I'm off
I'm
to
going
rock and
for a
roll
month.
land.
I'm going for a month to the UK," and they picked me up at the airport. We went to a little town called something Lee Willows, Newton Lee Willows, which is where Norman lived. And there I meet David
Hmm.
Marquis and Norman and so on. And I had the time of my life, a month with these guys in the
Yeah.
studio. Uh, and anyway, so I thought I'd bring that up. So I guess bringing that
Yeah,
forward,
but listen, how did you get back to your brother and back to business after that time of your life for a whole month? I mean, talk about being
uh,
bitten by a rock and roll bug.
now you're getting into it. So halfway through, actually, we had 1 week of rehearsals, and just about at the end of that 1 week of rehearsals, they pulled me aside for a private meeting. David, Norman, Henry Spinetti, and said, "Hey, your music's great. Uh, don't get us wrong, but we want to stop." And I'm
Interesting.
like, I'm like, stop? What does that mean? uh, they said, "Well, we have a deal with Virgin, and we had a fellow who was we wanted to be the lead singer, but we've all decided after this week that we are going to uninvite him, and we're going to invite you to be the lead singer of this new band." So
Yeah.
um, I hope this isn't boring you.
No, 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 not at all. We're all enjoying this. Not only me, but I'm sure my audience is enjoying this as well.
Yeah.
And
So
now you've got your brother in the back of your head, and you've got the businesses and all the commitment and responsibility, right?
right, right. So they're going, no, we got to stop this. So it's like I brought anyway. It was sort of surreal. So I said, well, who was the other singer? And I guess it's okay to say Larry Norman.
Amazing.
And I'm like, what?
Yep.
What? I can't believe this. I said, look, I have a commitment. We're here. I've got to fulfill this commitment.
Yeah.
And, we need to keep going, and we can discuss it later. So anyway, there's another whole story, what happened there. But to your question about my brother, I went back, and because of immigration issues with the UK at the time and so on,
Yeah.
they were having a lot of trouble me getting there. Plus, I had asked for a fair-sized advance in order for me to leave everything. So anyway, it
So
didn't work out.
but fascinating, and it already a sign of things to come. And of course, we understand that, and I say this to all of our audience, is that our gifting really makes room for us. Just be encouraged if you're at the beginning of your life, or even if you, as David at 57 now, is just moving passionately and doing great in music. And we're going to talk about today and into the future. But remember, your gifting will make room for you. It doesn't matter what age you are. If you're faithful to that gifting and passionate about it, and you pursue that gifting, it will literally open up doors. So,
Yeah.
Susie, the wonderful, our wives, catalysts in our lives, gets you to write a song, and then she says, right, now we're going to Nashville, we're going to record the song. You end up in 2017, 18, and 19, if I've got this correct, launching Volume 1, Volume 2, Volume 3. I mean, with Volume 1, you already drummed up immediately 10,000 fans. And from what I understand now, you've had over 40 million streams of between the three albums, etc. Is that correct?
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I was shortlisted for for 4 Grammys, actually, for that first album. The
Amazing.
way the Grammys work is you get nominated, and then there's a list of maybe 20 or 30 in each category, and then they narrow it down to 6. So I got nominated for 4 for that one particular, my first album.
Amazing.
And 2 of them were secular nominations, and 2 of them were Christian Grammys.
Well, I think
I didn't win a Grammy, didn't get the short list, but it was interesting, and it motivated me to kind of not that I was looking for the glory or anything. I had that when I was playing in front of 10,000 people in my 20s. So been there, done that, but really felt that these songs were downloaded to me for a purpose. And I can tell you, a lot of people ask me, well, what's your songwriting process, right? And prior to my wife saying, write a song, I would struggle. And maybe, I know you're musical, you've written songs, you've played and so on, so you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
You have lyrics, and they're in a book, and you may have it for a month or a week or even a year, and it's kind of it's a process, right? It's a process, it's a creative process, and it's great, but sometimes very, very frustrating. Writer's block, all that stuff. So back after I wrote that first song, Brighter Than the Stars, I actually to get confirmation, I said, Lord, if you want me to record and do more of this, I don't want the struggle. You're going to have to give it to me very easily. I've got other things I'm responsible for now. I just can't spend weeks and months and so on. I just don't. I really need you to come through here and just give it to me. If you don't give it to me, that's okay. but
Sure.
I'll record the one song and that'll be it. Well, be careful what you pray for, Rory, because for months, we were in our Texas home. We lived in Texas at the time, and for months, I would be woken up in the middle of the night with a song in my head, and I would get up at 2, 3, 4 in the morning, go down to the basement, write the song in about 20 minutes, record it just as a demo, and I would go back to bed.
Yeah.
So 20 minutes, half hour, sometimes 45 minutes, but that was it. Words, lyrics, music, everything.
Amazing.
And so Susan got used to it from there, and she, I think I'm creeping into bed and everything. And she goes, "Let me hear it." So that happened for months and months and months, and
Yeah.
still does to this day. I do not say, "Oh, I think I'll write a song about." Well, actually, there's one song, the hockey song, but I don't usually, I'll say, predestinate a song. It gets downloaded. I hear the first chorus or first few words of a song, and that's it. It starts the process. So
That's amazing to hear that. And maybe even on the podcast today, you will write a quick song with one of those guitars hanging behind you there for Spirit, Soul, Body. Who knows? We'll put the challenge your way. But I think it's time for us to take a piece of music. We could go with Forgive, or we could go with It's Time, or we could go with Voice of an Angel. I'm not sure which one. Which were any of those three one of those quick downloads from heaven, so to speak?
Yeah, all of them were. So let's go with.
Should we take It's Time? I've got a feeling we should. It's time for It's Time.
It's time for It's Time.
Let's do that.
When you feel no one seems to care, you turn around and there's no one there. When your tears don't seem to matter much, what are you gonna do? When you see the chaos going on, wrong is right and right is wrong. When you feel there's no hope at all, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? It's a time to seek, a time to find, a time to forgive, a time to restore your mind. It's a time to be ready, a time to be sure, a time to look up, a time to open the door of your heart. I guess it's easy to do nothing at all. I know my pride came before my fall. It's your choice to heed this call. What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? It's a time to seek, a time to find, a time to forgive, a time to restore your mind. It's a time to be ready, a time to be sure, a time to look up, a time to open the door of your heart. time to find, a time to rejoice, a time to restore your mind. It's a time to be ready, a time to be sure, a time to look up, a time to open your door of your heart. It's a time to seek, a time to find, a time to forgive, a time to restore your mind. It's time. What are you gonna do? It's time. What are you gonna do? It's time. What are you gonna do? It's time, it's time, it's time. What are you gonna
David Vaters singing there, It's Time, from his Voice in the Wilderness, Volume 1. Infusing both Americana and rock music with elements of alternative country, pop rock. And David, you've quickly defined yourself as a wholly unique talent, quite unlike any other act in the music industry. And the Huffington Post was saying David's music is creative, original, sufficed with an ardent spiritual awareness, rare in today's music industry. So you got some pretty interesting people commenting on your work.
Yeah, that was an interesting. I did 2 interviews with them, actually.
Mhm.
If you know Huffington Post at all, they're
Yep.
ultra left
Yeah.
organization. So they were very complimentary. And what I found is I get played more in secular circles than I do in Christian. There's a number of reasons for that we can go into, but I don't write in church speak, if you will. And so it's not that I don't say the word Jesus in songs. I do occasionally. Um, that's not the deal. But talking about body, soul, mind, and spirit, that's where you have to communicate with people on their level, not on a level where they don't understand what you're talking about. Larry Norman used to say in his concerts, I was just a new Christian. I went up to somebody and say, "Are you washed in the blood?" What? No, I don't want that. And I find a lot of Christian music, are for the Christians. They're for the sake. They're for like Jesus said, right? I came for the people who are hurting and needed help, not for those who are, um, preaching to the saved, sort of thing. So it's so I find, and it wasn't by design. It's just the way it's come out, how it's downloaded to me. And like I said, I get much more secular play than I do on radio than I do with.
Well, I mean, let's just jump. Let me jump in there for a moment on that, because just so everyone who's watching right now, I mean, David's basically had radio play. It's been increasingly exponentially, including BBC Radio, Sky One Radio in the UK, thousands of radio stations in the USA, Canada, Australia, here in Europe, Latin America. Of course, David's videos have had hundreds of thousands of views on YouTube. So, I mean, it's pretty exciting. And the fact that you really officially or formally or really with focus, thanks to Susie, kicked it off at 57, even though your shirt says you were established in 1922, I'm trying to figure out that one.
Well, my grandfather.
You're looking young, brother. You're looking young for 1922.
Well, my grandfather and mother wedded in 1922, and so my brother and I, my brother, made up some T-shirts, and
Love
so
it.
it's kind of a family thing. But Yeah, so that's when we were established, I guess.
No, I love it, love it, love it. Why? Why are you doing all of this music writing? I mean, what's your why, as we would say in the social media world?
Well, it certainly hasn't been deliberate, as you heard the story.
Mm,
But it's just something I don't sit down and say I'm going to write a song. It comes to me. I write it down. Right now, currently, in the last year and a half, I have probably 30 songs that that are ready to be recorded, and
pretty impressive.
yeah. So thank you. So it's and some of them are, one is called "You Got the Girl and I Got the Chevy," and
Interesting. And how does
and
that one go? I don't have that video to play on this podcast today. You
I
should
haven't
grab your
recorded
guitar.
that.
I'm quietly willing you to grab your guitar off the back wall, do a quick tune up there, and give us a little what's the word? A cappella? No, I'm not. What's the
That's
word when you do something
okay,
without a
forget it.
band?
That's a demo. Yeah.
We call it unplugged, brother. Let's have an unplugged performance right here, live on the podcast.
Okay, we'll do that sometime. But no, but my point is that I wrote a hockey song that played in the NHL playoffs and continues to get play in Norway and all the countries that are playing hockey in arenas.
Yeah, that's pretty much around the world, pretty much, right?
Yeah, right. So some of it is just that was a deliberate song. That I must admit that was it came to my head while I was driving in the snow in Canada, and I started singing it to Susie, and she always seems to be around. I don't know what's the deal, but yeah,
she's your wife. She's your better half, brother. She should be around most of the time.
I owe all the music to her, because if she hadn't done that, and the encouragement that I've had,
Oh, beautiful.
it wouldn't have
beautiful.
been created. So yeah. So, but at 57, I still have my doubts, of what am I doing? I'm 57.
Yeah, it's a bold move, but then again, I think just the little bit I know of you, and just as you're sharing your testimony, whether it's business or developing digital currency or now music, you are adventurous and you are bold in your stepping out. So that's encouraging.
Well, I'm not the only one here. I think you go in that category as well, my friend. So.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that. Sometimes it gets me into big trouble. I'll be honest with you and all those who are watching right now. Talking to David Vaters, we're live between Austria and Mexico. I love modern technology. Thank God for the internet. Live streaming. And let's go into another music video with David. I think let's go with forgiveness. And David, why don't you and I, when we've watched this and everyone's enjoyed the music, let's maybe talk about the subject of forgiveness.
Just to try something new. You've been hurt more times than you remember. It's sometimes hard for you to forgive the ones around you, because of what they did or said. They left you wounded and for dead. Well, you gotta forgive. Don't hold it in. It'll hurt you more than it will hurt them. Just like the good book says, take the high road that'll bless you and them. Forgiveness is a choice for you to make yourself, whether you're a believer or you're not. Guilty of this crime most of my life. just as they hurt you. But I say forgive, for they know not what they do.
Let's talk about forgiveness, how important that truly is for everyone, whether you're a believer or you're not a believer, a follower of Jesus. I think we all know that forgiveness really is a critical thing, but it's not always an easy thing to do.
Yeah, and that what you just said there is right in the song, whether you're a believer or you're not. Um, you know, forgiveness is something that you're only hurting yourself if you're not forgiving people. Everyone is fallible. Everybody is human, and the old saying: "You're when you point at somebody, there's four other uh, fingers pointing back at you." We have four others, right? Or if you include
Yep.
the thumb.
Yep.
So, from a spiritual standpoint, no, obviously, it's what God commanded, what Jesus uh, preached. But just even from a secular standpoint, there's so many people out there that because of that unforgiveness, they're not moving forward. They're having multiple issues and so on. Body, in their soul, in their spirit, and
Yep.
so that's a song for everybody. And actually, it's I think Red Sea and Forgive are probably number one and two of the most streams and the most. I think I had 2.5 million streams on SoundCloud for Forgive, and so it's so important to uh, you know not hurt yourself, but also to
Correct.
forgive those people. Yeah.
Well, I think so many people don't realize that when they hold unforgiveness, it's really themselves that are in bondage. They're reliving the hurt, the emotional turmoil of that whole process, while as the other person who's offended or wounded or hurt them, in many cases, doesn't even realize that someone is so hurt or wounded by them. So it's an interesting dynamic, and the other person who did the offending is just carrying on with life to some degree. Not always, but in many cases.
In
And
many
so
cases.
it's so important that we start with ourselves and just say, hey, I release you. I forgive you. I let you go. And I make an active choice, a willful choice to do so. And this is very difficult. And sometimes you need to do it repeatedly until it actually breaks through and breaks free. And of course, we find that when we're walking with Him, He makes it much easier. In fact, He supernaturally can step in many times. But very clearly, He requires us to be forgiving before we will be forgiven, for those of us who believe in God.
If I could give you one example, there are
Please.
many because I've had to ask forgiveness over and over and over again for many things. But in a case where I had been in a business deal and I had actually loaned money to give to this person. And anyway, bottom line is it didn't work out. And actually, many of my friends had done the same thing. And it made me physically sick at the time. I was young. I was still in my 20s.
Mhm.
$25,000 back then was a lot of money,
Yes.
and still is. But so it made me sick. I was calling the guy. I was tracking him down. I was trying to find him. I was talking to his parents. All this stuff. And finally, one day after being sick and just stressed over this, and this went on for months, I just gave it to the Lord. I just said, you know what? Um, what he did wasn't right, but I've just got to let this go. I forgive him.
Yeah.
And I don't want to think about this ever again in that context. So about 3 months later, the Lord, and I believe God, honored that, and that freed me up to make 4 times that amount of money on another deal.
Yeah.
And I believe that if I hadn't let that go, I would not have been blessed with that deal that I made for 4 times.
Yeah.
And so that's just a practical thing, right? It's just the right thing to do, for yourself and so on. And that's a financial thing. There are many other things, such as people hurt you,
Yeah, of course.
to you, and so on. And
But let me jump in and ask you a quick question. When you made that choice, you made that decision, you said, okay, fine, that's it. Enough running around, tracking him down. I'm just going to forgive him and let it go. How quickly did you emotionally improve or recover?
Immediately, I would say.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And you did that really in terms of also in communication or prayer time with him, I would assume. I'm just filling in on the way you shared the story. So he's basically graced you with that. You immediately had an emotional relief. That gentleman will still give an account for the way he dealt with it, right or wrong, and he will still be judged on that. We will all be judged on the decisions and the choices we make and the actions we commit. But that's very interesting. So some months later, you're blessed 4 times. That's very encouraging. Yeah. Very encouraging.
Yeah. So that's an important song, and I've had a lot of response from that over the internet, emails, and just comments and so on. And so it's a special song.
Wonderful, wonderful. Now, I think I'm going to play the 4th piece of music now. It's Voice of an Angel. Tell me a little bit about this. Which album was that one from? Or was it one of the singles?
3. No, that was 3, volume 3.
Okay.
Inspired by my wife, as a few of them, many of them have been. But it's just a lighthearted little, I guess, semi-country feel to it, ballad. But it's an interesting little love song. Yeah,
well, why don't we take a snippet? We'll take a piece of that, and then we'll be right back with David Vaters, all the way in the Yucatan, Mexico.
Heard the voice of an angel whisper into me. She told me that she loved me and that she'd never leave. Never leave. She told me of the future so tenderly. She wiped the shadows from my eyes so I could finally see. Finally see. And you and I will fly away, and you and I will be together always, always. Heard the voice of an angel. Her voice was like a song. Every word she said was a river of love flowing strong, flowing strong. She told me about Jesus what he did for me. She said he forgave my sins and nailed them to a tree. To a tree.
It's a nice way to sort of bring this podcast to a wrap up, David. Our wives are so important to us, and clearly she's a real passion and a massive support in your whole music.
Absolutely, and it's reflected in that song.
Yeah. Well, let's wrap up. Your closing thoughts to the Spirit, Soul, Body community around the world. Just encourage them, because you encourage me when I see at 57 you really step out of what you've done so well in terms of business, and you move into something that's been a passion from right at the beginning, but you really start seriously following it and indeed cranking out albums and now hitting charts, being nominated for Grammys, etc., etc. This is amazing. So what would you share with our community as they're watching when they are facing their own dreams?
Well, I think, in today's world with what's going on, it's a crazy world. It is a absolute, a lot of things that are not going right politically, socially. There's a push, a pull. There's a lot of conflict and so on. But if you can just take those moments to really explore, if you haven't, why you're here, well, the God that created you, that he loves you, and that he sent his son to forgive and to create in your heart a love for him that will just, in my experience, I haven't always been an angel like my wife, but I really think in these times we need a savior, and we need salvation, and we need that forgiveness. And so I would say to anyone out there, whether you're a Christian or not, don't pay attention to the noise out there. Concentrate on your relationship with your Creator. And if you don't know him, seek and ye shall find, as the song, it's time.
Beautiful. David, listen, thanks for your time and for joining with me and Spirit, Soul, Body community. Thanks for sharing your gifting with us. I wish you all the best with your music journey, and may it go from strength to strength. Is the next album underway? Is it already recorded? When does it come out?
Yeah, actually, I'm coming out with a best of album in a month or so, and there'll be one new song on there, and then later in the year we'll come out with the others, the other album, Way to Paradise.
Wonderful. And where can everyone find your music?
Just Google David Vaters, and you'll find me on social media or at my website.
And on Spotify and on all the other streaming platforms, no doubt.
Absolutely.
DavidVaters.com, right? Is it? www.davidvaters.com. I encourage you guys and girls out there, wherever you are, catch up with David's music. It is fabulous. David, thank you for your time. I really, really appreciate you, brother.
Thank you, brother.
And I look forward to giving you a hug very soon, whether it's here in Austria or whether it's in Mexico, or I know you're on holiday there at your holiday home there, but whether it's in Canada or the US, I'm sure we'll connect somewhere in the near future.
Okay, God bless.
Lovely. Thank you, David.
Thank
David Vater there joining me all the way from the Yucatan, Mexico. And wow, I've enjoyed his music. I've enjoyed our chat together, and I hope you've enjoyed it as well. Let me know. And I'll be back this Thursday. This Thursday, guys and girls, we're going to Armenia, the capital city of Yerevan. And I'll be catching up with my good friend there, Karan Asatrian, as he talks to us about an entirely different kind of music. Classical, jazz, Armenian folk music. It's going to be an amazing spiritual body. So this whole week, we're enjoying music, the food of life. And who knows, maybe in the future we'll also do painting and all sorts of other interesting things that impact you and I as spirit beings as we use our bodies and explore our souls, and as we grow as human beings. Love you guys. Remember, one life, one body. Until next time, from me, Rory, Alec, a big, big God bless you. Ciao for now.